Hey, what's going on YouTube? It is Chris here with Free Will Photos. I think I found a way to make videos shorter, so what I'm going to do now is I make all of the global adjustments and then I'll go through that with you in the video, and then we'll do the local adjustments together. So I'll show you this photo before I made any adjustments, which it's thinking. So this is a photo I took many years ago with my D5200 and the 18-55 kit lens. As you can see in the top right hand corner, it was ISO 640, 18 millimeters, and f8 at 1/80th of a second. So not the sharpest photo, but I said, okay, what can I do with this image? And I made some global adjustments. My goal here is to make this really contrasty because I enjoy contrasty photos. As you can see, it's a little dull, and I took this standing up. So, you know, this was not, I took it at my eye level. I'm about 6'1", so the perspective here is of this trail, and I think I had an artistic feel of watching this trail wind back into the distance as it vanished, and I just didn't really capture the essence, but I wanted to see if I could do anything to save this photo. So this is what I've gotten to so far. It's definitely darker, it's more contrasty. I wanted it to be like in the woods, so I'll show you the basic adjustments here. Nothing fancy. Obviously I dropped the exposure, boost the contrast. I dropped the shadows because I wanted this to be that edgy, dark kind of feel. I left the whites alone. I moved my black point just to the point that I started losing a little bit of detail, but put that back to 10. Just to the point where I started to lose a little bit of detail. I don't want to lose a whole bunch of detail in the black, in my blacks, but you can do what you want. I left these three things alone: the texture, clarity, dehaze. I boost the vibrance, and the only reason why I boost the vibrance is because as I was like moving this up, it just seemed dull, and then when I finally got to 50, I was like, I said, okay, 50 is good. So that's everything I did in the basic adjustments, or the basic tab module, whatever you want to call it. I did throw some a little bit of red into the shadows. That's to help out with these leaves. This was not the way that the leaves looked, but for the feel that I was going, as I was playing with the tone curve, I found that throwing some red in there made that look a little better. And I also enjoyed the red tint that I was starting to get right here on the path. Green channel, I didn't do anything, and I don't think I did anything. Oh, nope, I did. I threw a little bit of yellow in there, and that was just to warm up the shot. It just seemed like it was cold, so I threw some yellow in there to warm up the shot, and then I left the basic tone alone because I've already threw in enough contrast. And I'm sorry, I'm a little sick right now, but we'll make it through. I didn't do anything with the reds, the oranges, the yellows. I moved the hue closer to the orange tint, and that's what's really affecting this road. If you take a look here, it's what's affecting that path. Go back. That's what's affecting the path over here. So I wanted the path to really stand out, and we're gonna do some more things once we get into the local adjustments. But globally, I wanted the path to really stand out. I didn't mind getting a little bit more yellow into these leaves because the sun, it was actually shining in this direction. It was over here to my left, shining over here. Well, that doesn't make sense because the shadows are here. It was a while since I took this picture. So yeah, it has to be over here because the shadows are casting in that direction. Shadows go in the direction the sun is shining. So there you go. Sun somewhere over here. Boom. not really that important. The greens, these greens were extremely strong, so I went ahead, I darkened them down, and then I saturated them a little bit more so that way they still look like leaves and they didn't look all crazy. And I didn't do anything with these other colors. Split toning. So I don't do too much with split toning, but I did throw a little bit of, and this looks more gray, but it was actually blue. I just desaturated it because I didn't want it to be a strong effect, but because when it comes all the way up here, you can see it in the highlights down this the inside of this tree. But as you start to drop it down, it just gives a little bit of definition, a little bit of unique color. But if you look here in the shadows, I put a little bit of this gold and then I dropped the saturation down because, again, I was trying to get these shadows over here, and if I put this up too high, then it just looks completely weird and unrealistic, which I'm okay with unrealistic, but I was going for something that looks a little bit more natural, like I could have captured it in camera the way that it looks. And then of course I moved the balance here so it's less blue and more on that gold scale. I don't do a whole lot with the split toning, but there you go. And then I didn't do anything with detail because I'm not sharpening it right now. My preferred sharpening method is inside of Photoshop. And then I didn't do anything with lens corrections because I've told you before, lens corrections make your photo or makes Lightroom go slower. So stay away, or I personally stay away from lens corrections until I'm ready to take the photo out. Now, what I didn't do was crop it because I just didn't get to these pieces here. So I'm going to play around with the crop for a second here. I'm not going to take too much time on the crop. I know that my camera shoots in a 4:3 aspect ratio. I like that ratio, so I just hit the lock, keep it in that ratio. And just to give the road here a little bit more attention, it's kind of like I want the path to lead in. So what I'm probably going to do is something like this. I think that this gives me interest. Now, I'm shooting with a 24 megapixel camera, roundabout, and I don't like the way that looks. It just looks like the path didn't have any room to breathe. There's no real interest over here on the left side, so I'm trying to make sure, and we're going to take care of this with the local adjustments, but I'm trying to make sure that this path has enough room to breathe. There's some pretty good context as to what's on the left and the right of it, but I think that works a little bit better. This piece of wood that's sticking right, or this tree that's knocked down right here, not a fan of, but I do like the focal point being this path. It does make this side, or this side of the image seems to have more weight, so maybe I just need to crop some of that and bring it over. So sometimes finding the composition can be challenging because now I'm not seeing enough of the trees, and I'm not a fan of not seeing the trees because I think the trees is what tells the story here. The path leading into the trees, it's a leading line into the trees. That's my personal opinion. Maybe, I don't know. I normally don't cut trees right down the middle, but for the sake of this video, and I'll probably play around with the composition a little bit more, I'm gonna roll with this. Actually, I do like that. So I can see my trees. I got the path. There is this tree over here, but hopefully in the local adjustments, we're not gonna have too much of an issue with that. So I'm not gonna worry about spot removal. I can't see any of my sensor stuff. But quick trick, if you wanna see spots, if you click on the spot removal tool and then you click visualize spots, makes your image look all weird. I don't see any of the spots, even though I took this at f8. I usually don't start to see the sensor dust until further on in the aperture. So higher up apertures like f16, f18, f20, that's when I start to see the sensor dot or the sensor dust or dust on my sensor. All right. So I am going to reset that. I have some Surge Moblie or Photo Surge plugins here I bought years ago, and I do use these a lot because I like where they start and then I just edit them. But I'm not promoting him. I do like his stuff. As you can see, he's the only one that I've ever bought these from. Mostly because he shoots a lot of landscape stuff, and I have a lot of landscapes that I like to edit. So I'm not gonna really use any of those though. What I did want was exposure, and then I am going to dumb down the exposure here. I'm going to do it quite a bit, and I'm just going to kind of bring in some shadow just to what I would guess is the horizon. Bring that off there, and then I'm going to bring the exposure back up just a little bit, and I will open up or bring down the shadows, and my goal is to make all of this dark up there with the exception of getting into the road. So I think right about there, that looks about where I want it to be. Then I'll do a new one. I'm gonna do the same thing in this direction. Now, my goal, like I told you from the beginning, was to bring focus to this path. So I'm doing like these odd vignettes. Obviously this one looks a little too strong, so I'll just do that and bring down the black point. Bringing down the black point darkens everything, and I'm okay if it looks a little unnatural, because my goal is really to highlight this path, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that here. I'm just going to bring that up, and it looks like everything's fairly dark here. So this is my main tool. I'm going to be using the radial adjustment, and I'm going to bring up the exposure and open up some shadows here, and I am just going to make a selection. Now, for whatever reason, maybe I darken the shadows here. And don't want it to be that obvious, but I'm gonna bring it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna come over here to the range mask. I'm gonna make it luminance. Grab this eyedropper, click right here. Just trying to get this to blend a little bit. So now it moves, it's moving a little slow. I'm gonna bring the range out. Alright, I think that's about right, and then I'll just bring down the exposure. So, and bring up the shadows there. Alright, put my eyedropper back, go ahead and make a new radial tool. Bring this to about here. That one doesn't look like it needs an adjustment. And then new, make another one. This one's gonna be a little bit smaller. Okay. And now I'm gonna make one more right back over here. Turn that. Okay. So now the path is a little bit more bright, which is what I was going for, as opposed to everything else in the photo. I am going to make an attempt to darken the edges of the path. So I'll go exposure and I'll put just a little bit of clarity, and I'm going to go with a fairly good sized brush here, and with my flow a little low, I'm just going to trail along the path here. And see if I can put a little bit more contrast between the road and the overall image. I think I need another pass over here. And maybe another one right here. Let's see what that overlay looks like. If you hit O, it takes a minute, but it'll pop up with the overlay. Oh, got some on my road here. I don't want that. So I'm gonna erase that. And hit O again, because it's where I want it to be. So what probably is happening is I just don't have enough exposure, so I'm gonna drop it down. And that looks terrible, so bring it up until it starts to blend the way that I want it to. And I can also use a range mask here. Go luminance, get the eyedropper, click there, try to get that to blend just a little bit better. Put that there, and yeah, so let's see what we got here, because I think that is pretty much what I was going for with this. And I'll throw in a lens correction now, since I'm done with everything else. And I will close my history and hit F for full screen. So this is the final image that is up on the screen right now. The video is a little cropped from the final image, just because I have the video recording just what was inside a Lightroom, inside of a video. But we did take the photo from something that was dull, and you know, I'm not printing this. I think this is just more of me experimenting and figuring out and bringing you guys along in the journey. But I like that it's brighter in the back, and in fact, we could try something else here. This is one of my favorite tips or tricks that I do, and I'm just gonna make a really big radial adjustment, and then I'm gonna invert it, and so now it's affecting everything outside. And look at that, I actually like that way more. It's not a vignette, it has a vignette approach or feel to it, but it now has the way I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna turn it a little bit, and so now I'm following the path. I think it actually draws more attention to the path than what we once had in the previous photo. So that's another thing that I do enjoy doing, and I really like where it's taken this photo now. And you know, you can darken this down as much as you want, and that's like extremely moody. Or I can bring it up, and then another way that I like to do this is remove a little bit of the clarity from everything else around it. So just the things that are inside of that radial filter will be in focus, everything else not so much, or it'll be more clear for the things inside the filter. So I think I'm gonna roll with this particular version. I don't like it that dark because I want to put this on social media, and dark images on social media are cool, just not my thing. I did want to make this more contrasty, and I think we achieved that. So if you stayed to the end of the video, thank you. Hate this little wheel piece. If you stayed to the end of the video, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you. I do have Facebook and Instagram, so please follow me there. Let me know what your favorite editing local adjustment is inside of Lightroom, and let me know what you guys want to see. I edit more landscapes probably. There will be some portraits on the channel in the near future, but landscapes are my personal favorite. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, peace.